Hey everyone, I've got Glenn here from Jump Capital. Why don't we kick things off? And Glenn, why don't you introduce yourself and a little bit about your firm and your interests?
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much, Charlie, for having me. So my name is Glenn Borok, originally from the West Coast, born and raised in San Diego. I went to the Bay at Berkeley for college. I think, like many folks, I took the all too familiar path into management consulting for a few years. I ended up realizing very quickly that I wanted to be a bit more hands-on in what I did. I joined LinkedIn and spent a few years working on their product strategy team for Sales Navigator. It was a great experience where I learned a lot about how to build a best-in-class business. But I actually went back to school with the intention of kind of starting my own company and going to even earlier. I ended up starting something in the fintech space. As you can probably tell, was not nearly as successful as I would have liked, but learned a lot in that process. And, kind of serendipitously ended up at InQtel, which is a venture arm of the U.S. national intelligence communities. Spent a handful of months there working on deals across various hardware categories like semiconductors, battery technology, et cetera. Loved the intellectual curiosity element and honestly the mission-driven orientation, but knew that I wanted to do something a little bit more software focused. So about 2 years ago, joined Jump Capital. It's an early stage firm based out of Chicago with an office in New York. We're on Fund 7, $350 million fund, focused predominantly on Series A. Kind of our sweet spot is a $8 to $10 million check, and we're generalist software investors looking at fintech, application software, infrastructure software. So pretty broad mandate, and very kind of hands-on investors, often taking board seats. So it's been a great experience. The one other quick tangent I'll just mention is in this role had also kind of seen a lot of LinkedIn entrepreneurs who are coming out and looking to get funding, looking to start a new business. That ecosystem is just really rich and robust, but doesn't have the same sort of support system that like Google does with Zooglers or Airbnb does with Air Angels. And so about year and change ago, decided to start Invest Ventures, which is the LinkedIn community fund. We have about 190 LPs. Raised about $2.5 million to put checks anywhere from like 25 to 100K into LinkedIn alumni who are going to start their own business. I'm now running it alongside Lori Moore, who's a partner at Bessemer, and Karen Shee, who's a longtime sales exec at LinkedIn as well. And we have a bunch of really great LPs like Jeff Weiner, who's the former CEO, Dan Shapiro, who's the COO, and a bunch of other famous entrepreneurs across Crooked Health, Confluent, Figma, you name it. So really excited to just support that ecosystem and also support entrepreneurs who embody the LinkedIn ethos as well.
Oh, I just got it. Invest Ventures. The IN. It totally makes sense to me now.
It really rolls off the tongue.
No, that's fantastic. And I'm actually curious, what are some of the things that you learned at LinkedIn that you kind of take with you to not only when you had your own entrepreneurial endeavors, but helping companies build up as a board member and an investor?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think that's part of the reason why I started Invest was that special kind of ethos and culture that I think is embodied in each individual who's worked there. I think for me, it really comes down to compassionate leadership, which is something that Jeff talked about all the time. I think leading with kindness and understanding where people are coming from, especially in an industry where everything comes down to the people, is just something that I have embodied in every endeavor that I've undertaken. And I think just that intellectual curiosity and alignment with action that LinkedIn kind of stresses is super important. So you're constantly questioning, refining, and learning, especially as you get more data. And I think that sort of ethos is what I look for in a founder, and also what I think a lot of LinkedIn alumni bring to the table. So there's just a really good alignment between those values, and I think what makes a great entrepreneur.
It's interesting that you mentioned that. I just had an opportunity to interview Bill Magnuson from Braze. And as the company's original CTO, who then became CEO, he was talking about how empathy and understanding helped him scale as a manager because not everyone operates like a software engineer. Salespeople are very different than marketing people. And so for him, that compassion, that empathy was actually a growth tool. It's not sort of touchy-feely, what kind of a workplace do I want to be in? But it's actually just very functional, right? You have to understand the person across the table from you that you're trying to collaborate with.
Totally. I mean, when you're leading a team of unique individuals with different backgrounds, you can't just kind of put your head down and run straight forward. You have to lead with understanding, and empathy is kind of, compassion and action. You can't just kind of say it. you also have to understand it and live it. And so it's just been a really great understanding from my LinkedIn days that now I'm able to put into practice, when I'm evaluating companies and also helping them grow.
So I'm thinking about raising my Series A. Maybe I'll go for a larger institutional seed. I feel like I'm in Jump's sweet spot, but there are a whole bunch of other VCs out there, and I'm trying to increase my chances. So I obviously want to pitch to someone who's going to take an interest in what I'm doing. Can you tell us about like what's top of mind? What types of things are you maybe a little more uniquely interested in than, let's say any other VC firm or investor that at least at a headline fits into my sector and space?
Yeah. So first, I'll just say we're a generalist firm, so we love to look at everything. But I think two areas that for me really stick out and that I think I have a unique angle on. One is RevTech. I wrote a whole thesis. So you can go to Jump Capital's blog and read through all those different perspectives. But having worked on Sales Navigator for so many years, having worked closely with so many sales folks, I've always been interested in kind of sales technology. And I think we're going through a really interesting time from a sales perspective where AI SDRs are flooding everyone's inbox. It's very hard to break through. And I think sales enablement is a very easy way to automate, utilizing AI. And so ultimately, I think there's a lot of opportunities to help, SDRs and AEs with everything from research, prospecting, even kind of conversion, all the way through to customer success and some technical customer support use cases that we've looked at in the market as well. So really, really broad swath of new age revenue technology that can be implemented. I think the caveat there is we're also just seeing a lot of experimentation where sales departments who are eager to kind of gain efficiencies are trying a bunch of different things, and you're seeing a lot of 0 to 1 or 2 million in revenue, and then ultimately, are not able to, continue to scale, don't have that stickiness. And so I just caveat that with the ROI is really the key unlock there. After RevTech, I would say vertical AI and vertical SaaS is a big focus area for me. The last two companies I've looked at, one was vertical SaaS for the waste management space, one was in the transportation space. I love looking at really legacy industries that maybe haven't advanced as much with the latest technology and are looking to come online through AI. And so just a lot of really great companies that are taking unique angles to verticals that you never would have anticipated, or markets that you would think would be too small, but fundamentally are primed to kind of take on technology currently. And I think are going to see a lot of great momentum.
So let me ask you a follow-up question about that. So from a tech side, I understand why we get excited about AI.
Yep.
If you're going into sort of an old school industry or an industry that the tech hasn't been updated, what do you see as the key to selling into those places where, the pitch of like, oh, it's like what you do now, but with AI, and
Yeah.
the person who runs the waste management company or whatever, like may not care or even may be afraid of it, right? Because maybe
Yeah.
they're, are they going to get replaced, or, a team member is going to be replaced? And, what's the key to breaking into that old school industry with a next gen technology?
Yeah. So for me, I think it's twofold. The first piece is the workflow. So I think you want to make sure you're embedding in their current workflow such that they don't have to change anything to kind of utilize your technology. And oftentimes that comes with either a replacing of the CRM or a replacing of some of the inner tubing that kind of connects all of their disparate systems right now. But I think you want to make sure that they feel like they're not having to change their workflow to kind of adapt to you. And the second piece is also, I think the new age of AI allows for so much natural language interface that they're able to do stuff that technically they weren't able to do in the past. And so with some of the great voice AI capabilities, some of the great chat interfaces that are capable now, you're seeing folks who are in waste management who in previous lives had to spend all their time in Excel to basically create something, are able to really just chat or even have a conversation with an AI that can do that super quickly. And I think that leads into my next point very nicely, which is, they're looking for ROI. That's plain and simple. That's the story. And if you can prove out quick and efficient gains, then it's a pretty easy, in my opinion, pretty easy sell relative to what it was in older technology. And so you're seeing a lot of folks who are showing off these AI capabilities, and in 24 hours, in a couple weeks, you can see that the efficiency gains and just employment gains that you're getting from your staff are insane compared to to kind of what you'd expect. And so I think being able to show that ROI, have a compelling demo, and then also creating that value really, really quickly is super important and what really sells the product.
Okay, cool. And how do you want to be pitched? What do you want to be excited by in a pitch?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is no surprise to folks, but I think the most important part for me is the people. And so I want to understand kind of what your unique insight, what your earned insight is about a market. What's unique that you can kind of understand about this opportunity that feels so obvious once I hear it that it kind of just unlocks a really, really key opportunity. I want to back people who, in 30 minutes can reframe how I think about an industry. And, if you compare that vision with relentless execution as well and constantly learning and iterating, I think, that helps make my decision really easy. So I would love people who can kind of come in with that narrative, who have that experience and kind of prove that out.
Awesome. And you were doing office hours.
Yes, I am doing office hours.
Are you fully booked yet?
I have, I think, one slot still left available, mostly booked.
Okay, cool. Well, thanks so much for doing that. Really appreciate it. And thanks so much for sharing your interests.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, Charlie. It was great to chat and looking forward to being a part of office hours.
Cool.